Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. O ever immaculate Virgin, Mother of mercy, health of the sick, refuge of sinners, comforter of the afflicted, you know my wants, my troubles, my sufferings. Look upon me with mercy. When you appeared in the grotto of Lourdes, you made it a privileged sanctuary where you dispense your favors, and where many sufferers have obtained the cure of their infirmities, both spiritual and corporal. I come, therefore, with unbounded confidence to implore your maternal intercession. My loving Mother, obtain my request. Pause. State your request in your heart. I will try to imitate your virtues, so that I may one day share your company and bless you in eternity. All right, so I'd like to look at today at an amazing passage from Redemptoris Missio. Who wrote Redemptoris Missio? No, this is actually from Christi Fidelis Laici. Who wrote Christi Fidelis Laici. Who wrote it? No. Next. Nice. GP2, we love you. This means that what in Latin? Faith, Christ, Laici. Laici.
Faithfulness to the laity.
Good try. Good try. That's very good. Christi Fidelis, to Christ's lay people. The lay people of Christ. So it's all about you. It's all about you. The laity. You are the laity. You are not. The laity is a church, is a word that means the opposite of cleric. So you have clerical and lay. So I am a cleric. A deacon is a cleric. True or false? Brothers are clerics. True or false? Sisters are clerics. Nice, good job. They are lay people. Canon law just makes a simple distinction between clerical people and lay people. Religious are lay people who live a different type of life. People don't get that. They're just like, you're a priest because you're a brother. It's like, they don't get it, like what priest means. So the lay versus the clerical. Okay, so this is to the lay people. And this document is one of his best. He goes nuts. Because in this document, he lays out that evangelization means the transformation of the human into the divine. And therefore, of the culture by the church. And the principal agents of this transformation are who?
The lay people.
Why?
Because they're the ones that are in the world. I mean,
Exactly.
not that clerics aren't,
But then again, we're not, right?
yeah.
That's the whole anomaly. I can act as cool as I want, but as long as I'm wearing this garb, I'm never going to fit in, you know? No, dude, that's just cute. Look at Father run. Look at the monks play basketball. Ha ha ha. Like, that's about, like, all that you get. Because we've left the world. We've shaved our heads. We wear sandals. We're in a habit. We're supposed to act differently than the rest. A monk that cusses, for example, what a poor thing that is. A monk that gets mad when he's driving the car, what a poor thing that is. A layman that gets mad driving the car, how cool he is. But like as soon as it's a priest, it's like, oh my gosh. And rightfully so, because we've made a vow of difference with the world. But that vow of difference allows us exemplarity. So a religious and a cleric, they give an exemplarity. Exemplarity. That's the beauty of our life, is that we stand apart to say holiness is possible, heroism is possible. As a matter of fact, it's required. And that way, when you just lost your 39-week-old child in the womb, you're talking to a man who's lost everything as well. And now I can minister to that. See? So you go looking out that exemplarity. We're supposed to be a light, and we're supposed to be leaders. That's why it's so awesome having a priest. It's like, oh, a priest, you know. Why? Because he's not like us. This is the great folly when we lose this, and we're like, no, I'm just like you, right? So like, this, we'll just nix this so that you don't think that I'm any different. I'll dress like you, I'll act like you, I'll cuss like you, I'll go to Black Sabbath concerts like you, and because I am like you. And then the idea is then you'll accept that I'm close to you, and I'll be able to preach to you. And what usually happens is that once you do all of this, you kind of lose respect for the guys. Like if I had a Maserati, it'd be pretty hard to listen to me. Because you'd be like, you have a Maserati. That's absolutely ridiculous. You know? Sometimes I find people have us it's a little bit too hard here. It's kind of like when Pope Francis was like, priests who have the latest model of the iPhone, shame on them. It's like, Pope Francis is like, I just beg to differ. Like, as much as I love you, like, if you don't have the latest model of the iPhone, you're outdated and you can't keep up. Things shift. You've got to be able to work. It's called tools. So, but what he was getting at is, if you have it and you carry it around as if it was what gave you your identity, you'd be just like people in the world. So is it a tool or is it not? And this is a very hard thing because when you're young, you really expect this. I mean, like if I was barefooted right now with my hood up, it'd be even more epic. You'd think, yeah, But then you realize that walking around barefoot, you get flat arches and you get a bad back, which end up costing even more money than buying a normal pair of shoes and taking care of your health. But if you take care of your health, you don't look cool. So what's you gonna do? That's the drama of the religious and the cleric. You try to find this medium, but you lose this. There's a lot of times I think, if I were to have met me when I was young, would I have become a brother? And I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't know, because when I was young, I was looking for the barefooted guys. I remember I wanted to join the CFRs because they don't have mattresses. They sleep on the floor. Well, they slept on the floor. And then they decided to not do that anymore because they were getting health bills, and some of them had bad backs, and so now they sleep in beds. And so it's like, but at the day, they were making a big deal. We sleep on the floor. We're so poor. And I remember going into their rooms, and there was nothing but a sleeping bag on the ground. That's what I want, But like, it doesn't work in the end. It's like, you're kind of dumb, like walking around barefoot. And then you're assuming that people are going to pay for you when you go to the hospital. Would actually be, but like, how do you carry that exemplarity? Well, that's our job. For the lay person, we evangelize by this exemplarity, by the light, by the leaders, by the difference. We're supposed to be different. Because when we do that, we pull the world upwards. What about lay people? Remember those two poles? You are always going to have to be somewhere in the middle. There's God, and there's sinners. And in the middle, there's the bridge, the evangelizer. And he's got to draw near sinners, or else they won't draw near him. But he's got to stay near God, because otherwise he'll be a sinner. And that tension point slides back and forth depending on what your mission is. To whom have I been sent? What am I trying to do? if I'm working to help homeschool moms, I'm way over here. I don't do all of this shenanigans. Because that's not my mission. These people need me to exemplify God for them because they're looking for that. These people aren't looking for a holy man. They're looking for someone like them. And that tension point is the art, and it's the drill, it's the skill of your life. And some are good at it, and some are not. It's not because you want to be that you're an evangelizer. It's because you have a gift that God sent you, and you've also studied and learned, and you've listened, and you've been patient, and you've been hit down, and you've given advice, and you've asked Father. Father said, do it this way, and you've learned over time. But by the time you're like a priest, 50 years ordained, you're just the coolest cat there is. I just think those guys are the best guys, old priests. I'm just like always in awe of them. They just know how to talk to kids. And they know how to talk to women, they know how to talk to men, they know how to talk to everybody. How did you get that way? Years of practice. Okay, so but this is the model where most people think evangelization takes place. So if you want to evangelize, it's not me. We need Father to teach the catechism classes, Father to say Mass, Father to bless. And this is Catholic notion. The Protestants beat us here, and in a good way. But what John Paul II says is that since you are in the world, it belongs primarily to you to transform it. He's going to talk about this in his document. Let's take a look. Any questions so far? Brianna, why don't you start reading for us?
The hour has come for a re-evangelization. Whole countries and nations where religion and the Christian life were formerly flourishing and capable of fostering a viable and working community of faith are now put to a hard test and in some cases are even undergoing a radical transformation as a result of a constant spreading of an indifference to religion, of secularism, and atheism.
Okay, stop. He's doing an analysis here that's very important. So, Bree,
Yep.
What has caused a change in the world?
Indifference to religion.
Pretty cool. And where has that taken roots?
In secularism and atheism.
Yeah, but that's correct. Indifference to religion. Secularism. Do you know what that means? Anybody? What does secularism mean?
Like going with what everyone else is doing.
Good try. It's close. Precisely what it means is that no religion influence on culture. No religious influence on culture or politics. So secularism is secula. What does that mean in Latin? Anybody? Secula, seculorum? Means the age, which is the same word as a world. That's why I say world without end. In secula, seculorum, in the age upon age, and ages upon ages upon ages, forever and ever. That's where we get forever and ever. Because this could also be an ever. Forever and ever. So secularism is where you have just the world. A worldism. Not the churchism, not a godism. So where I take a non-religious point of view and I form culture and politics around that. So you have an indifference to religion, I don't care. Then you got people that say religion shouldn't have any place to do with politics or culture. You know, Lady Gaga, who says God bless America, that. Atheism, no God at all. Alright, now but where, Bree, have these taken root? According to that sentence.
Whole countries and nations.
That's right, what did you say?
Whole countries and nations.
I keep going.
Working community of faith. The Christian life.
countries and nations where
religion and Christian life were formerly flourishing.
Rooted in Christian countries. Okay, so here's kind of cool. The Pope is admitting you have a huge challenge. France, for example, has 7% Catholics who practice their faith. 93% of the country is Catholic. 93% of the entire country is Catholic. 7% go to church. Czech Republic, the Czech Republic. It's nearly 100% Catholic. It's probably 96% Catholic, whatever. 30% atheist. 1 out of 3. Church attendance in rapid decline in Italy. The average age of a churchgoer in Italy is, I don't even know what it is, but it's 67. They've done all the math. They're losing their entire populations of churchgoers because the young people aren't going. Christian countries are becoming missionary countries. This right now, France is facing an election, for example, where the person running is actually saying, who's like the radical right person, is saying, if you don't vote for me, your children will not speak French. They will speak Arabic. Because the Muslims are multiplying 8, 10, 12 children, and the Christians are contracepting. It's just really simple. There's a great book about this you can read, The Cube and the Cathedral. And the whole opening of that book is an analysis of the population decline in Europe. Do any of you guys have a copy of it?
No.
It's too bad.
But I know when I went to Mass in Germany, it was dead.
I remember when I went to daily Mass, when I was 16, I used to ride my bike to the daily Mass when I was in Germany for a month. And I was it was 2 nuns, the priest, and then me who would go to daily Mass. And they were all talking about it, like a young person going to Mass, We don't do that, Okay, so America is blithely ignorant of that, but we're going right down the same path, unless you choose to fight. What he's looking at, he's like, okay, in those countries, we're going to talk about this.
Continue?
Yep.
This particularly concerns countries and nations of the so-called first world, in which economic well-being and consumerism, even if coexistent with a tragic situation of poverty and misery, inspires and sustains a life lived, quote, as if God did not exist. End quote. This indifference to religion and the practice of religion, devoid of true meaning in the face of life's very serious problems, are not less worrying and upsetting when compared with declared atheism. Sometimes the Christian faith as well, while maintaining some of the externals of its tradition and rituals, tends to be separated from those moments of human existence which have the most significance, such as birth, suffering, and death. In such cases, the questions and formidable enigmas posed by these situations, if remaining without responses, expose contemporary people to an inconsolable delusion, or to the temptation of eliminating the truly humanizing dimension of life implicit in these problems.
Okay. Can you tell me in your own words, who could tell me in their own words what the Pope said there?
That in first world countries, that because of the wealth that we do have, we convince ourselves that we are living life, and that it's good, even if it's combined, even if people are miserable. And then when you separate Christian faith from life moments, it's easier to take out human element spirituality. If
Why-
you're not looking at like the human element, it's more like robotic.
And what do you guys think about that? What do you think he means when he says it dehumanizes those moments?
If you think about things like, euthanasia now, it's all, they make it like death with dignity, but it's kind of like, hey, you're not worth enough to society anymore, so just take a pill so we don't have to like be bothered with you. So you lose like this natural life moments when you should be with people.
I understood it as like the traditions being separated, or how do you put it? Separates those moments of human existence which have the most significance. So like external traditions such as like parties for birthdays and baptisms or whatever, sometimes it like separates, and I'm probably way off base here, but can separate from like it's more about the party and the show and whatever, so you're separating from the true humanity of it, I guess. I don't know.
What do you think, Vincenzo? Have you ever seen a moment of death or birth lived in a way that was beautiful, edifying, amazing?
I don't know if I would describe it that way. But I don't know, I think he's saying like in those moments of birth, suffering, and death, there's a beauty to it, and if we miss out on the wonder and the awe of that moment, we're kind of not living out what we're truly meant to live out as humans, because we're meant to sit in that place of wonder at those moments. So
And when you do that, who else appears at those moments?
God.
And so, if you don't do that, what takes the place of God?
Bad stuff.
Yeah, but according to his reasoning, materialism.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not very clear, right? Like, this is John Paul II. He's so brilliant that he just sometimes he lacks clarity. Benedict was like a machine. John Paul II was a poet, so he just kind of, and then I think this keeps on going. But you can kind of see what he's saying. In these first world countries like America, our situation, materialism and consumerism, are killing off a sense of God. So that when you have a birth, you're more worried about the birthday present, or you're worried about the color of the walls of the nursery. These things are important, but you're like, you know what I mean? Like, it can become the obsession, such that a woman will even kill her children or choose their dimensions via IVF, where she can like even select the different genomes or chromosomes that she wants to have in the child, the color of the hair, the designer babies. I mean, are you serious? But we are. Why? Because instead of focusing on the wonder of the life, we've been overcome by this consumerism and materialism. Now, what I love about this is that, guys, this is your world. You are not going to be missionaries in Africa, developing work. You're not going to go to Haiti. You'll visit it, and that's it. But you're not going to go there and live. It's not going to be your mission. And a lot of Catholics think that because that's where the real mission is. I remember having conversations with brothers that were very painful for me, because brothers were telling me, oh, in America, you can't really do missionary work there. It's no fun. It's not really evangelization because you don't have poverty. I'm just like, wow. You know, even what we're doing here at SJI, there are many brothers that kind of look at it as like down, like we shouldn't be founding in America. We should be founding in Peru or wherever. There's poor people. And I keep wanting to say, yeah, evangelizing the poor is very important, but what about evangelizing the first world? So when we started SJI, it's like, no, we're going to be first world. We're going to have iPhones and iPads, and we're going to use Spreaker, and we're going to be cutting edge with the society because the church needs that too. And this to me is a much bigger enemy. Mother Teresa said, the poor in India are rich compared to the poor in America. When she came back from her first visit in the United States, she said, I've seen a poverty there that I've never seen in India. And I said, what is that? She said, loneliness. They're lonely. It's really amazing. Because then, we just have all of our people turning our backs on that, saying, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to convert the young people? It's too hard. These are our enemies. Now, the good news is, these are really weak enemies. They're only, materialism is defeated by true friendship. Consumerism is defeated by authenticity. It's just that friendship and authenticity require that the missionary do something beyond just run a stinking class. He's got to love his people. And that's the secret. If Regina goes to work one day for an agency and she just checks off the clock and makes the perfect websites and does whatever she's supposed to do perfectly for them, but doesn't have love, that whole mission won't bear any fruit in this world, because there's no way she's going to do it better than Justin Bieber or Purina Chow or whatever they're going up against. Everyone else in the world is doing that, and they're doing it better. Regina Ramsey's not going to be able to beat the marketing tactics of McDonald's. McDonald's spends, I think it's $7 billion, $5 billion a year on advertising. $5 billion a year on advertising. Now, fortunately, I did the stats. There are fewer McDonald's than there are Catholic churches, but not that many. It's almost the same amount.
Wow.
That $5 billion, they have their own TV station. It's just full of Ronald McDonald garbage. So, how are you going to beat that? Well, you don't have to, in a sense. You can just market all you want. If you actually have a single conversation with a real person, you beat that. But to do that, Regina's got to, choose that office job. Goes back to Walsh and works in their marketing department. You're going to be filled with people that are going out drinking after working at the bloody university. It's then what do? Then they don't even go to church. They don't pray. They're practical atheists. They're working at a Catholic school. Why? Because it's just a job. They're doing it like everyone else. Defeat. That's why you have that challenge. No. I'm going to be authentically Catholic right here. When I do that, you're going to transform everyone around you. Okay, so these are according to the Pope, these are the enemies. It's cool to be able to see that. Go ahead, Bree.
On the other hand, in other religions or nations, many vital traditions of piety and popular forms of Christian religion are still conserved. But today, this moral and spiritual patrimony runs the risk of being dispersed under the impact of a multiplicity of processes, including secularization and the spread of sects. Only a re-evangelization can assure the growth of a clear and deep faith, and serve to make these traditions a force for authentic freedom.
Over to you, Joseph.
Without doubt, a mending of the Christian fabric of society is urgently needed in all parts of the world.
All right, stop there. I think that's really cool. What did he just say needs to be mended?
The Christian fabric of society.
Isn't that weird? What do you think is meant by that? What is the Christian fabric of society?
The people.
Cool. Tell me more. How do you mend the Christian fabric of society?
you're just buying things, you're never actually like looking at yourself and looking for that higher spiritual good. But once you have a friend, like you start to like see those elements, and then you start seeking
Like,
community.
isn't he like relating it to what's up here? So like Christian fabric society would be like what it means to actually be human, like your actual human characteristics. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So like us being Christians at that base of society is us just being truly human.
So should you put human practices,
I guess, yeah. That's what I would put. Or
human way of life?
Yeah, yeah.
And Regina, you say it's people. It's kind of a cool phrase. Because if he says it's what he said, mended,
Yeah,
to mend means you like sew it back together, which means it's been ripped apart.
Mm-hmm.
Christian fabric. So this is fabric. And so if this was the Christian fabric, it'd almost be like what undergirds society. Right? The fabric isn't the cloth, like this is a scapular, but it's made of fabric. So you have America, and it's made of fabric. Made of what? It's made of Christian ways of life. So I think it's really cool because he's saying this is what's needed. And he kind of comes out of the blue with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm going to mend the Christian fabric, that means I got to go back and get people to readapt a way of life that's different. It's human.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys tell me anything that means practically to you? What is an element for you that you see of what you would identify as a Christian fabric of society?
Dignity of the human person.
Okay, and can you give me an example of that?
From life to death, so defending against things like abortion and physician-assisted suicide. Because we all experience that, and we all want that.
Rita, you got anything? An example of what a Christian fabric of society, how that fabric would be?
Relationships within, starting with family.
So the family. How about you, Rach?
Along the lines of like people being able to kind of along the lines of the dignity of the human person, but being able to forgive themselves so that they see it in themselves. So like women who have had abortions and think that, you know, they're worthless, like having that forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. The
I mean,
possibility.
you can go like all
forgiveness.
kinds with that. But.
Yeah. Okay. How do you inculcate the idea of the family? Who does that? How do you rebuild the idea like that family is stable, divorce is impossible?
Being an example. So I mean, if you're married, then taking that seriously. And being an example for your kids of how you treat your husband or wife, because of that, the kids feel stable and they don't to emulate that and look for someone on their own and vice versa.
But even like as a single person, you can too, by not like having kids with everyone, or like, I mean, you can.
Well, I think what he's going to say is this job can only really be done by the lay people. I can teach about it, I can point to it, I can do certain things, but there's so many things that I can't do. Like, I don't know, reform television.
Didn't we say in the last class, like, it starts with the philosopher? philosopher changes, the politicians who change society, change families.
That's my job.
Mhm.
Okay, let's keep going.
But for this to come about, what is needed is to first remake the Christian fabric of the ecclesial community itself, present in these countries and nations. At this moment, the lay faithful, in virtue of their participation in the prophetic mission of Christ, are fully part of this work of the church. Their responsibility in particular is to testify how the Christian faith constitutes the only fully valid response consciously
Perceived.
perceived and stated by all in varying degrees to the problems and hopes that life poses to every person in society. This will be possible if the lay faithful will know how to overcome in themselves the separation of the gospel from life, to again take up in their daily activities in family, work, and society an integrated approach to life that is fully brought about by the inspiration and strength of the gospel. To all people of today, I once again repeat the impassioned cry with which I began my pastoral ministry. Do not be afraid. Open indeed, open wide the doors to Christ. Open to his saving power the confines of states and systems, political and economic, as well as the vast fields of culture, civilization, and development. Do not be afraid. Christ knows what is inside a person. Only he knows. Today, too often people do not know what they carry inside, in the deepest recesses of their soul, in their heart. Too often people are uncertain about a sense of life on earth. Invaded by doubts, they are led into despair. Therefore, with humility and trust, I beg and implore you, allow Christ to speak to the person in you. Only he has the words of life. Yes, eternal life. Opening wide the doors to Christ, accepting him into humanity itself poses absolutely no threat to persons. Indeed, it is the only road to take to arrive at the total truth and the exalted value of the human individual. This vital synthesis will be achieved when the lay faithful know how to put the gospel into their daily duties of life into a most shining and convincing testimony, where not fear, but the loving pursuit of Christ and adherence to him will be the factors determining how a person is to live and grow. And these will lead to new ways of living, more in conformity with human dignity.
Okay. You guys kind of seeing where he's going? Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Let's finish through and then we'll go back and pick out some points. Go ahead, Regina.
Humanity is loved by God. This very simple yet profound proclamation is owed to humanity by the Church. Each Christian's words in life must make this proclamation resound. God loves you. Christ come for you. Christ came for you. Christ is for you. The way, the truth, and the life. This re-evangelization is directed not only to individual persons, but also to entire portions of populations in the variety of their situations, surroundings, and cultures. Its purpose is the formation of mature ecclesial communities in which the faith might radiate and fulfill the basic need of adherence to the person of Christ and his gospel, of an encounter in sacramental communion with him, and of an existence lived in charity and in service. The lay faithful have their part to fulfill in the formation of these ecclesial communities, not only through an active and responsible participation in the life of the community, in other words, through a testimony that only they can give, but also through a missionary zeal and activity toward the many people who still do not believe and who no longer live the faith received at baptism. In the case of coming generations, the lay faithful must offer the very valuable contribution, more necessary than ever, of a systematic work in catechesis. The Synod Fathers have gratefully taken note of the work of catechists, acknowledging that they have a task that carries great importance in animating ecclesial communities. It goes without saying that Christian parents are the primary and irreplaceable catechists of their children, a task for which they are given the grace by the sacrament of matrimony. At the same time, however, we all ought to be aware of the rights that each baptized person has to be instructed educated, and supported in the faith and the Christian life.
So if you were going to try to evangelize a fallen away Catholic, how would you do it?
By loving them first, so you learn about them and you become their friend, and if you're not already, you have to let them know you care, and you find out where their hurt is with the church, why they left it, and then try to give them the truth.
What would you do for the type of fallen away Catholic that says, I just don't need it?
I think that if you have a good relationship with them, you can engage like in dialogue with them where you start challenging the things that they believe and sharing your opinion, and so trying to catechize to them through that means, because they do have a right to that, and sometimes they don't even think about like another side.
How would you attract, let's suppose you've got a 16-year-old that doesn't want to go to church, doesn't want to pray, doesn't want to do anything with God. How would you approach him?
Show them that Catholics can actually have fun.
That's how it worked for you, right?
Yeah, I would not take them to church.
What would you do?
Go shoot guns. Go play basketball. Something. Other than church.
I think it depends on like the kid too. I mean, like one, if they just didn't like that quality time, another one might really just didn't feel like challenged.
Do you guys think that young people today actually really want relationships?
Yes.
I don't know that they know it though.
I think they want to believe that they don't need relationships. Because they want to just glorify themselves.
You kind of have, like, if you grow up in front of a computer screen, it's kind of tough to have a relationship. Like, people are saying that the kids that grow up in front of their iPhones, I think it's going to be Generation Z, isn't that what they're calling it? The next one. After the millennials. They're saying that they're going to be impossible to talk to or to, because they just don't even really want relationships.
I don't think that's true. I mean, I think they want it, I just don't think they are getting it. It's so easy to disconnect and be on your phone and whatever, and think you're connecting with people, but you're not. So once they have that like authentic encounter or authentic relationship with somebody, they're not going to like not want that.
They're getting fillers. Social media is filling their desire for that, so they don't see it. If they would just take a step back and see that's exactly what they're doing with their time, then they realize that's what they actually desire. Overall. Same with a lot of other things that are on the computer.
You think it'll work?
If they take a step back. If they did, yeah. I don't know how you do that. How do you get them to take a step back? That's the thing.
Get them to unplug.
That's why ego is pretty
We
cool.
just have to blow up the powder.
Simple solution.
I know. Problem solved.
Shoot down the Wi-Fi.
What do you think he means by saying humanity is loved by God? This very simple yet profound proclamation is owed to humanity by the church. Each Christian's words and life